capture this on video. So how much time do I have all together?
At least an hour.
Okay, I should say how much time do we have together? Okay, cool. Awesome. I say we because anytime I do one of these workshops, I always ask that you guys take full responsibility for the quality of the workshop. It's not something I'm doing to you. It's something we together are accomplishing. These concepts, we'll discuss them. We'll talk about them. But please just own the value that you get from the next hour. Can I count on you for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Appreciate it. So ultimately, I want to cover a few things, or we'll cover a few things, about generating referrals and leads at initial sit. Taking that back a notch, obviously this excludes Costco, right? Okay, so what I'm going to teach you today, we're going to use at canvassing appointments, your own referral, self-gen appointments, third party, so anything other than the Costco. All right, so a couple of questions I have for you. How many referral leads? And there's a reason I'm asking this is that we can get a sense as to what are the existing beliefs that each of us has about what's possible. All right, and I think you ultimately want to begin with that, because we'll talk about self-fulfilling prophecy in a bit, because if we have a belief, ultimately our behavior is going to cause that belief to come true. So how many referral leads do you guys believe we can average per sit? Like, what's a doable number? What do you expect? What are some numbers you guys throw around?
Most I've gotten is 5 at a point of sale before.
Thank you. Okay, so most I've gotten 5. So consider the outcome is connected to a belief. Like, so would you say that you believe that 5 is a solid number?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. What else? What are other numbers?
1.
1.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being honest. All right.
Yeah.
So one thing you'll find is there ultimately would have to be an expectation shift. As far as what's possible, what can I expect? When I'm sitting with people, what I will tell you is that if you do, use these techniques, you give yourself permission to be open-minded about what's possible, you can achieve 10 referrals per sit. Now, they're not all going to be qualified referrals. I think that's where it also differs a little bit. I probably could have been a little more specific. So I think sometimes we say, I'd like to get 2 qualified referrals per sit. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is be open to the idea of 10 leads per sit. Because you're really going to promote to customers. It could be anybody, it could be anybody, it could be anybody. And then you as the expert are going to be the one to qualify. So you're going to want to go away from having the customer do the qualifying, and instead you do the qualifying. All right, and we'll discuss, more in depth in a bit here. So first and foremost, let's talk about the impact of a limiting belief itself. So this is a document I put together for the, what was that meeting we had not too long ago with Top Gun? Yeah, so this is something I reviewed with the Top Gunners. I've used this with my coaching clients for years. So a little bit about, I've trained about 5,000 to 6,000 direct salespeople since the year 2000. So 1999, I was like 20 years old. I began as a direct sales rep. No company leads. Everything was self-gen, just word of mouth, referrals, all of that. And then 1 year later, or I should say 8 months later, I ended up running the Manhattan territory for that company as an independent contractor. My summer job was to own a sales team. And since then, I've had a consistent direct sales team all these years. So I've group interviewed, I think it was like 50,000 people is the number that I'd come up with. Because obviously that's independent contractor model, so it's you're recruiting a lot of friggin' people. And 1 year I think I recruited 880. Anyway, so I've had a chance to really screw up, do things well, and then you guys are getting the goods after years of just trying things out and knowing what works. I did a stint with Vivint. I've been a consultant to direct sales companies, so a bunch of cool things. So I love the idea of taking matters into your own hand, becoming an expert or at least proficient at self-gen referrals, because that way you never have to feel like a victim or at the mercy of lead gen from a source, a corporation. It's like you truly become an entrepreneur and a CEO of your business instead of like an employee. It's a different shift in mentality. What I love about Sunrun is that we compensate the heck out of it, or referral self-gen. So it's like, I'm not selling, I don't have to sell you on doing this. I mean, obviously monetarily, it just kind of makes sense. So with that said, let's dive into this document here. This is all based on believing in the concept of self-fulfilling prophecy. So self-fulfilling prophecy is a prediction that directly or indirectly causes itself to become true by the terms of the prophecy itself due to positive feedback between belief and behavior. So the idea is we have a belief and then we're going to behave accordingly. Like a young student who decides I suck at math, he's going to expect to probably fail, even though his desire is to be good at math. Sometimes people get in a debate with me about this, like, no, I'm really expecting success. I go, well, I get you want success, but let's make sure you're honest about what you're truly expecting. So that little kid, if he was being honest, he'd say, well, I'm fearful, which means he's expecting what?
The worst.
The worst, which is failing the test, right? And he'll, essentially that behavior will determine his behavior during test day, or it won't be a coincidence that that's the test that the night before he doesn't sleep. Because that's his way of being right about the belief that I'm going to suck at during this math exam. He goes and takes the test, he fails, and he comes home to mom and says, "Mom, I knew it." Right? So it's those "I knew it" moments in life, right? So, and essentially his behavior caused the belief to come true. Right? Now, the only way this is going to be of value to us is if we understand that our beliefs are not truths. Our beliefs are opinions, and they therefore can be what? Changed, right? Because if you don't believe they can be changed, then all this stuff is for nothing. Because then we'll keep wanting to be right about what we think is factual, right? No, it's hot outside. I'm like, no, it's 92 degrees. No, it's hot, right? Whereas the person next to you could say it's warm, right? And then they both would argue that their belief is like factual. I'm like, well, no, you're entitled to that belief, but by no means is that like a truth, right, across the board. So the Pygmalion effect, Rosenthal effect, is the phenomenon whereby higher expectation leads to an increase in performance. So the opposite applies too, right? Lower expectation will lead to a decrease in performance. And this applies to Andrew and I, coaching you guys too, because we have beliefs about you. And we'd have to be careful about what we expect, from you. Because then ultimately we're going to train you guys accordingly to generate results matching up with our belief about you guys. Right? So we have to constantly be open-minded that you can do it, and really buy into that. You have the ability to increase your level of performance. The basic formula for shifting a belief from a limiting one to an empowering one, number one, is distinguishing the limiting belief and being okay with that. So what I do with my clients, it's question-based coaching is really what it is instead of question-based selling. I'll just ask questions. Hey, tell me what you think about that. What's your opinion about that? All right, that result, tell me more about that. What are some things you think you're saying or doing to be right about that? And I'll just write, and I'll write, and I'll write, and I'll say back to them or show back to them the words that are in their minds. That way it's not me doing it. It's not me saying, putting it in their mind, because you guys and I have to be the ones to really get in touch with our own thoughts, right? Because there is an impact there. So you be honest about it. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm being honest. I expect to expect people are uncomfortable giving referrals. Like if I'm being totally honest here, or I expect that it's hard for somebody to decide to go solar now as opposed to a few days from now. Or if I'm really being, honest, you get the point. We could find limiting beliefs with each part of the business, right? And you want to start to really, truly be on a quest to distinguish those things. And also acknowledge your empowering ones too, right? So you want to keep reinforcing those things. Number two is to acknowledge the impact and identify the results created as a byproduct of the belief. Consider we're not going to be willing to shift the belief unless we know there really is an impact. It's like the integrity thing too, right? We're not going to want to honor our word unless we know that there's an impact of dishonoring our word. Nobody's going to change things in life if they're not aware of an impact on themselves, people around them, everybody involved in this process. So you really want to acknowledge, hey, because I have this belief, I'm acting this way. So if we are going to talk about a limiting belief connected to referrals, you may have a limiting belief, which is that most people aren't comfortable giving them, or they need to wait for an install. I've heard that one before. That's not factual. That's an opinion that you have. Or the fact that we even say, can we average per sale? Which means usually there's this belief of if they don't go solar, they're not going to what? Refer me. Well, who says? I do, exactly. All right, so it's coming from you. And so I challenge the hell out of that limiting belief, because whether somebody went solar or not, the same value is added to their friend. Nothing changes. We're having the two be connected. We, as the salespeople. All right, so again, I challenge that as well. It's another limiting one which we can talk about, a series of limiting beliefs connected to referrals. But at least wanted to give you the template first. Step 3 is to create a new opinion or a new belief. Now, when you first create the new one, we'll say it in a very wimpy fashion, right? Because we're so accustomed to, arguing for the limiting one that we've had for a while, right? Because we want to be right about how the universe is going to go. We want to be right about how things are going to play out. So if somebody goes from like, yeah, most people are uncomfortable giving referrals, they'll say that like confidently, and then they'll go, people will give me a lot of referrals, and they know a lot of people. Like, you actually hear the tonality. Like, it's like, ooh, okay, let's talk about that. All right, so the next step is the how and why exercise to reinforce that new belief. Reps need to sell themselves on the new belief. So if I'm coaching you to adopt a new way of thinking, I'm going to ask you, hey, why? Sell me or sell yourself on that new belief. Because the way you're saying it, you obviously don't buy into it yet. So tell me how, tell me why. Tell me how you're going to do it, tell me why. How, why. And we'll go back and forth and do that. And then you declare the empowering belief again, and it's neat. So after somebody goes through all the reasons why they're going to buy into their new belief, and then they state it again, it's like this whole new level of confidence connected to it. And then number 6 is immediate action taken to reinforce the new belief and generate new results. Otherwise, what will happen is we'll digress back to the original limiting one because we've had it for a while. We've gotten used to it, right? That limiting belief overall. And so again, here's the example. Most customers are comfortable giving referrals. That's a limiting belief. Actions that make the limiting belief come true, not asking for referrals at initial sit, using wimpy words like maybe, could you, kinda, like hinting at it and keeping your fingers crossed and hoping that they give referrals. Maybe if I hint at it a little bit, at the end they're just going to start writing them down for me. All right, so it doesn't play out that way, as we know. Nervous body language and lack of eye contact. Like, I've seen people who are like, oh yeah, solar, oh my goodness, and they're closing the deal, I'm talking solar, and then when they get to referrals, it's like, whoa. And like, we don't, like, it's like dissociative personality disorder. It's like a different human being. And that customer unconsciously picks up on that. It's like, why is this person, changing their tone, or why they're changing their demeanor from one part of this sit to another. Results, no referrals or limiting number of referrals at initial sit. New empowering belief would be it's easy to get an average of 10 plus referrals at point of sale. Customers want me to speak to people they know right away, and each customer knows tons of people. When I did this exercise with my team in Vegas, we went around the room and had each person say it, and it was amazing the different levels of confidence, when they stated it. Obviously, Jameel Penn said it like totally self-assured. Roanne Cuevas, because she worked with me at Cutco for many years, so she says, yeah, of course, duh, no problem. But then other people that aren't getting the results, it was really insecure, wimpy. It was fascinating. It was interesting. And so I do how and why. Why does it make sense? Why does the customer want you to speak to people they know? Why is it easy? Why does it make sense that they know tons of people? How are you going to let the customer know in the beginning of the sit that they will be giving you tons of referrals before you leave? Right? And then the new results, of course, will be averaging 10 plus referrals generated per customer during initial sit. One thing I want you to keep an eye on, and you could do this as a community, start to look at the things that people do well and let them sell you on their empowering belief. What usually happens is somebody's succeeding at something and we may be getting ineffective results at something, and then we'll try to sell them on our limiting belief. Has anybody witnessed that before? We almost want to convince them to be on our side of the fence. So what I ask that you do is fight that temptation and that tendency, and instead say, wow, okay, this individual is getting a higher sit to close than me. Let me ask, hey, what is your belief about that? Okay, how do you do that? Why do you say what you say? And you'll actually let them sell you on their belief. That's really what we're looking to do as a community, is target who's the best at referral gen, who's the best at the phone approach, who's really good at canvassing, and you have a tool belt with all these tools. And so as a community, if we start to adopt those empowering beliefs from each of the individuals that are truly succeeding at high level, you'll see an increase in performance. And as a side note, performance increase comes from either better action or more action. Better action or more action. All right, too often we want increased performance, but then we go out and do the same exact thing on the next sit. Right? And it's like, and then we get pissed that our performance isn't changing. I'm like, well, you did the identical thing. So of course there won't be a shift at all. All right. So I'm beginning to, kind of challenge the way you're thinking a bit, and inevitably this has to lead to new action. This has to lead to better quality action. Otherwise the results and the performance just won't change. Any questions on that concept? Okay.
Love it.
Cool. Yeah, and this is something that I'm going to ask that you guys be open to during coaching sessions. And you got to buy into the value. And that's only going to work if Andrew and I, as we're talking to you, don't make you wrong for having a limiting belief. And we won't. It's like, you ever see a good therapist or doctor or whatever, when they're somebody could say, I just murdered somebody. Okay. There's no judgment. If you watch, we'll get Bill Shue's video out to you at the Top Gun event. He did an amazing needs analysis with question-based selling. And when he's writing notes, there's no judgment. It's awesome. So the customer could tell him anything. All right, so when I'm with clients, they could tell me anything. It's not appropriate for me to judge. I'm just going on a fact-finding mission and collecting data is what you want to do. So that's why this is, again, question-based coaching, it's question-based selling, it's all the same type of thing. Question-based interviewing. All right, we have to do that when we're recruiting people. So that same concept. All right, next thing, can we pass these out? G unit.
This whole thing right here?
Yeah, each person gets one. So this is the referral binder that I've used for many years. So I'm going to give you the program. What I would ask that you do is be open to using the program. Hold off on opening it until, cover a few things with you guys. Normally what we do is try to tweak 10% of a program that's given to us. I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but we do that because there's a sense of like, well, if I didn't invent it, then, or if I didn't put my own imprint on it. What I would ask that you do is just start from nothing and just be open and say, okay, let me look at the full program that Joe's introducing to me instead of already starting to think, how do I manipulate this and change that? Now listen, once you're on the program, I'm all about enhancing it. By no means am I like thinking that there's such a thing as perfection. Okay, so, but learn the program first and then we make adjustments, as time goes on, instead of like half learning it at first and then trying to change it, right? Because it's going to throw the whole thing off. And so my wife is pregnant right now, so I have an approach of either you're pregnant or you're not. So either you're on the program or you're not. There's too much of this. I'm on 88% of the program. And so unless we're fully on it, we can't expect the results that it's generated. And if we're not on it or 99% on it, then it's as if we're not on it at all. All right, just something to consider as we go through this process. In the inside front cover of this binder, by the way, so this is a binder. Yeah, you can open it. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for being patient. All right, so on the inside front cover, this is from Jameel Penn. Okay, so Jameel in my office. Jameel has the record. They're saying it's 30, but it's actually 29 referral sales in 1 month. Sit with that for a second. 29 referral sales in a month. Now, when I say that, some of you guys are like, wow, even though you didn't say it, and that's why you can't repeat that. Meaning you're surprised by it, which means you don't expect it's easy. You don't expect it's doable. Pay attention to when success surprises you. Again, pay attention to when success surprises you. All right? That's how I influence new salespeople. I have the existing people come in the room, and they'll say, hey, yeah, I just went 5 for 5 last week. Something like that. And the group's like, whoa. I'm like, that's exactly why you won't get that. Now, we can acknowledge your success, but we can't be surprised by the success, right? And that goes back to expectation and predictions and all of those things. So here's all the different sponsors. You'll know what a sponsor is in a little bit. Well, I'll just tell you now. A sponsor is a full sheet of referrals. All right, so Jay, this doesn't include any of his customers that gave him less than a full sheet. Okay, so to do that 30 referral sales in a month, he was basically doing what I'm having the associates do. And I'll review, some things. So I start with this image because it's going to challenge your belief, if you have a limiting one. Because if your limiting belief was actually truthful and factual, would I be able to find evidence that contradicts it? No, because like a law of gravity, right? You can't find, I'm not fully scientific, but I guess I believe that's how a law works, okay? So, too often, again, we say our opinion as if it's a law, but if I can go ahead and find evidence to the contrary, then please don't say that your belief is a law, all right? Because, again, you're going to be stuck with that and those results. So, anyway, that's a good way to start. You can look at that, all the different referrals. Now, again, not all of them are qualified, all right? So, and that's not the point. The point is to drive up the number. All right, so the next packet on the left-hand side there is the talk track, script, that sort of thing. We're generating referrals. Before I dive into that, I was always taught attitude first, action second. Okay, attitude first, action second. So you notice how I began this whole thing with belief? So we want to talk about attitude and belief first because I can show you the action, the scripts, all of that, but we're not going to use them until we have the right attitude about them, all right? So real quick, let's pop some bubbles and some limiting beliefs. So and put these things to bed, all right? I need to have solar already installed in order to introduce it to my friends. That's true if, in fact, let's take it a step back. What are they introducing their friends to? Ultimately, what are they subjecting their friends to? When you get a referral at initial sit, they're subjecting their friends to what?
An introduction.
An introduction, that's it. See, if you pull it back to that, then you don't need all these requirements in order to get the introduction, in order to get the referral. That's all you're looking to have them do. You're saying, hey, put down everybody that I can speak to for 30 seconds and give them the power to continue talking to me or not. That's the approach. That's all we want. right? When all is said and done. Not, hey, who's interested in going solar? Who would be really good at, who would be buy into this or be really good? So, because, we really think that they need to refer us to people who are going to go solar. No, they're referring us to people that will speak to us on the phone for 30 seconds. See, it's a shift there, okay? That way you don't have to wait. Like, yes, you will still follow up at site audit. Yes, you will still follow up, at install, those things. But notice if you wait, you now turn it into a two-step process. You're in their home. You're there with them with the sit. Generating referrals at the initial sit doesn't require extra time. Would you guys agree with that? It doesn't require an extra calendar event. You're already there. Plus, if you wait 30 days and then get referrals, it's not like over that 30-day window they met those people. So the people they write down for you 30 days later or text you, they had already known at initial sit. So why are we putting it off is the point. Why are we waiting to the future? All right, any good business owner would tell you get the return on investment now. No, I want to wait. No, but I want to pay you. No, I want to wait on my return on my investment. All right, to the future. It's like, huh? All right, so you're investing energy, you're investing time. Ultimately, they just need to buy into you. And hopefully we've already popped a hole in the whole thing. They need to already have gone, or rather, they need to be somebody I've sold to in order to introduce me. That's only if you make it mean that they didn't like you in some way. I was sitting down with one of my consultants, and that came up in the coaching session. She was being honest with me. She's like, I make it mean that they just didn't trust me, like the no sale. I'm like, okay, that makes sense, right? Because you make it mean that they don't trust you. You're drawing that as a conclusion. And it would make sense then that you wouldn't get referrals, then you get to be right about what? Them not trusting you. You get that? So I'm like, I was talking to the consultant. I'm like, well, change your meaning. You connect to that. It just didn't work for them to go solar. Leave it at that. They still like you. You're still a trustworthy individual. So be it. Because even if you have a 50% sit to close, if you're missing out on half of the opportunities to get introduced to people, it's crazy. By the way, whether somebody goes solar or not, do they still get $350 for their friends?
Yep.
Yeah, so that exists. Whether they go solar or not, does their friends still get a chance to learn about solar and see if their house qualifies for solar? That's an approach, too, and as a side note, I recommend you start to go on a quest for. Just let somebody know if their house is a solar home or not. Say, hey, listen, Joanne, you may never do this. That's okay. Let's just see if your home is a solar home or not, and then that way when you are selling it, even if you don't have solar, you could tell the new homeowner that it's a solar home. So that ties into just selling somebody on the consult itself and not selling them on solar, all right, which we'll talk more about. So, yeah, and that's what the canvassers, I assume, do. That's what the retailers do. They're really good at selling the consult. They don't dive into marketing. That's your job, obviously, once you're in the home. But you want to start to wear both hats. Right, the appointment setting hat and then the closing of the sale hat. Know what's appropriate at the right time. What are other limiting beliefs? So I can pop, again, before we dive into the approach about getting 10 or more referrals per sit. Any other things that I need to talk about or challenge you on?
I need to speak with my friends because I just don't want, I don't want to just have some sales guy talk to them or something. I think it's a little bit beyond the introduction belief that we were just talking about there. It's like the next level of that.
Cool. And we'll get to that. So page 3 of this packet are common objections. Mm-hmm. Deal with it. You're going to find you'll minimize a lot of those common concerns just by doing the approach correctly to begin with. All right? Because if we do it in a very passive fashion and then we kind of like half-heartedly introduce it at the end, then the self-fulfilling prophecy kicks in. We get the insecure customer. Mm-hmm. All right? So the way to be effective at referral generation, you're having somebody refer you, not asking them for referrals. Let me say that again. You're having them refer you. You're not asking them. What's the difference?
Action.
Okay.
Confidence.
Action, meaning, confidence as well. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like this. You're directing them to, which means you already assume what? It's going to happen. It'd be like somebody's visiting you from out of town. Are you going to be like, hey, would it be okay if I give you directions to my house? You say, hey, get off the plane, grab that shuttle, take that to there, do this to that, right? Similar to what you should be doing with solar and the referrals. And you probably already do with the solar. Hey, Joanne, I need your bill. Like, you don't say, could you maybe kind of give me your bill? Right? We give direction. You're like a teacher. Like that's the difference between a tenured teacher and a substitute at times. Hey, children, is it okay if maybe I give you homework? They'd get eaten alive. A tenured teacher's like, hey, guys, tomorrow we have a test. Go home tonight, read 2 chapters, be prepared tomorrow. Is there any question marks there? No, not at all, right? Because you're giving direction, you're giving instruction, you're informing somebody what to do. This only works if you don't add the meaning pushy to what I'm saying to you. So please don't go there either. If you perceive it as pushy, you're not going to, behave in a way that would work, ultimately. All right, so we're nowhere near being pushy with this stuff. All right, so and this just goes back to buying into you're a good person, they're a good person. Is anybody here going to threaten their friends on the phone? Is anybody going to call people up and heavy breathe? Is anybody going to wake up, break into their house and punch their friend in the nose? So sometimes we ask for referrals as if those are the things we're going to do. Like that's what we embody, as if we're doing something to their friends, Because you had because we half-assed the approach. We did it insecurely. We had one naysayer, one negative person, and now that shaped our whole reality around referrals. Because one person says, I'm uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, by the way, all this is not a perfect system. You're not going to get referrals from 100% of the people. The way it unfolds, you want to look at it every 10. 2 will give you like none. 2, you'll claw your way to like 3. All right, and then the other 6, 15 plus referrals. That's what it calls for. But what we cannot do is have those 2 people give us none influence the way we approach the 6 that are totally cool with it. All right, so that's how you get to an average of 10 referrals. Right? You're not getting 10 every time. By definition, we know what an average is, right? So if you do the math on that, you need to end up with 100 referrals every 10 sits, and you can factor in 2 zeros and still get to that number. All right, it's just the way it works overall. So, but that's an important idea. You want to make sure you're giving them direction, not asking them. And even the way I voice inflect, does that make sense versus does that make sense? You guys been trained on that concept? If you voice inflect up, it's an insecure, wimpy question. If you voice inflect down, even though it may have a question mark, it's more of a statement. Does that work for you? Does that work for you? All right, so you'll hear more of that insecure tonality come out during the referrals than you would during selling a solar. All right, so get rid of the wimpy words, get rid of all those things. Okay, so we'll get to the common concerns in a second, but I want you to get is that you don't need to keep expecting to get the same concerns as you've been getting if you learn how to do a more effective approach. Let me say that again. Please don't keep expecting to get the same concerns and objections because you're no longer going to do the same approach. Right? And that's the problem sometimes. I give somebody a whole new approach, but they're still expecting the objections because they just got them for a certain period of time. But the only reason why you got them was because you never were properly taught in a lot of instances on how to do it to begin with, right? So we kind of just throw you out there and say, good luck, and you did what you did. Right? And then you drew conclusions. Yeah, people always say this. They always say that. They always say that. They say, I don't know anyone. They say, I'm uncomfortable. They say, I'll do it later. Those are the big 3, right? I'll do it later. I don't want to do that to my friends. I'm uncomfortable. Or I just don't know anybody else. All right. Any other big concerns other than those 3? I think those are the 3 big ones, right? By the way, concern is an unanswered question. At least that's what we want to go ahead and switch it over to. All right, concern is an unanswered question. By making it an unanswered question, it's now manageable. So if I leave a customer in a state of concern, nothing I can do about that. If I support them in converting it to an unanswered question, and I get the question answered, what happens to the concern? It goes away, it dissolves away. All right, so if somebody's like, I'm uncomfortable doing it to my friends, what they're really asking is, what will you be saying to my friends, and how can you assure me that they're going to be cool with this? And so if you answer that, that dissolves away. Now, what's the best time? Bear with me. I know some of you guys have been through intensive sales training, so try to listen to this as if it's new to you, instead of like, I already know that stuff. All right? The way we create a sales script or a pitch is by listing the common questions customers are likely to have, and then when do we want to get those things answered? Before they actually come up, which you guys have been trained many times on that concept, right? So that's the same thing applies to the referral approach. So you want to list the common questions. The common questions are, why should it be easy for me to introduce you to my friends? What are you going to be saying to them? Why does this make sense? What's in it for me? All those different things, right? And then we bring it back, and that's how we put together an approach. And so this was crafted, right? So you deal with the objections before it comes up. You frame things in before somebody has an opinion or makes up their mind about something. That way, when they do evaluate and cast a certain judgment, you've influenced that judgment, all right? Because you framed it in. That's the same reason why we do 7 steps of power play. You're framing everything in a way so that way when they do start to make some choices and decisions, you've already influenced that. Not manipulated it, you've persuaded, you've influenced, as long as you buy into this, and that you're making a difference for people. So referral generation at initial sits broken into, I'd say, 3 to 4 parts. Okay, part number one, and I don't want to call it planting seeds anymore. You guys all heard that before? I hate it. Here's why. It implies that what we're doing is like challenging, that we have to kind of like be subtle, which is almost like this topic is like maybe uncomfortable for customers, or it's one of those hard things to do. Some new people, you guys do that with credit check in some cases. Like you're thinking, oh, some people are going to be uncomfortable with this. Let me plant seeds for this. And then the more experienced people are like, hey, we just need to see if you're qualified. Run this quick, credit. It's like very as a matter of fact. All right, here's what we got to do. All right, so I hate you saying plant seeds because then it's like, oh, and then I got to hope that it grows into a plant. All right. Instead, it's just communicating to them intentions, objectives. Here's how it's going to go. That's what it is. All right, not plant seed. All right. So number one, let's call it a referral agenda. You just state to customers, hey, here's how it's going to go. Here's our objective today. Here's what we want to accomplish, pertaining to referrals I'm talking about here, okay? Step two is about 80% through, 70% of the way through, you do an actual approach, which is having them write down referrals on the referral sheets. Step three, you take it from 1 or 2 referrals and drive the number up to a full sheet, ideally. It's a whole separate step. Some of you guys are really good at getting 1 or 2, but then we're very complacent. We're okay with that being where we stop. We need to make 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts to drive the number up. That's a separate conversation for a separate time, but it's like, how do you sway fence sitters? I guess I'll do real quick because I just gave you a taste of it. But when you're persuading, there's 20% always, 20% never, 60% are on the fence. Some of you guys may have been taught this concept. So 20% you'll never be able to persuade them. Like they've done studies. You can go outside a grocery store and try to hand out $100 bills and 20% won't take it. Right? Nothing you can do about that. 20% will always be persuaded. You could try to hand out packets of anthrax and 2 out of 10 will take it. Right? So because they'll always be persuaded, right? Now we don't really devote energy to those 40% because they're either going to always or never, in spite of whatever comes out of your mouth or what you do. 60%, however, are on the fence. So all the energy, all the sales training is always focused on the 60% fence sitters. And there's some key things that we can do to sway fence sitters. And I'll rattle them off. First is confidence. Do we expect or do we hope? If you're going to sway a fence sitter, it has to be a true expectation. Not, I play a good part, I fake it really well, but in my mind I'm thinking, I hope this works, I hope they go solar, or I hope they give me referrals. Like a true expectation, okay? Like if I say, hey, can you tie your shoe? What do you say? Yes. There's not like this, I hope I can, like there's this, absolutely. If I say, hey, will people go solar when you sit down with them and explain it to me? Absolutely. Hey, are you able to consistently get sponsored when it comes to the referral approach? Yes. And the reason why is because the cap is on. Oh. Who ultimately owns and who's ultimately responsible for the words that come out of your mouth? You are. Who's responsible for how you behave on a sit? You are. So you are fully responsible for shaping the customer's thoughts, beliefs, all those things, right? So you want to know you can influence consistently certain outcomes. And as long as you're willing to behave a certain way, say a certain thing in a certain order consistently, you can truly expect the outcome instead of hoping for the outcome, all right? So fence sitters, you have the confidence, which I just said. You have enthusiasm as the second thing, right? That's the energy transfer. Guys, you have to really understand that each sit is the customer's first introduction to solar. It may be your 1,000th introduction of solar. And so you can't go into autopilot or cruise control mode. You guys know what I'm talking about. I've done that before. Even sitting down with clients, it's like the 6th one of the day, and I'm like, it's like you literally have like a brownout. It's like driving in your car and you end up 2 miles down the road and you're like, I don't even realize that I was driving. Right? You go into autopilot on your sits with customers. You have to really not do that. Obviously, it doesn't work, right? So enthusiasm is the number 2 thing. Number 3 is trust and relationships. Nobody's going to let you persuade them if they don't trust and like you. Just likability. Within 30 seconds, you unconsciously decide if you like the person or not. So be one who it's like impossible to say no to. Be a person who you be just a person that's easy to say yes to. Just kind of let that sink in. I'm just going to be a person that's easy to say yes to, all right? And you guys know how to be likable. You just are. It's not a being thing, or rather, it's not I have to try to be. It's just you just are that. 4th thing is answering questions in advance is the 4th thing. And then the 5th way of swaying fence sitters, making 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts. Being persistent, okay? Too often we make 1 attempt at referrals and then we just shut it down. If you do that, you're going to lose the 60% fence sitters. You're only going to get 2 out of 10 to give you a good amount of referrals. The always people. If you do the right thing with fence sitters, take the 60% plus the 20% always, do the math, and you get 80%, which is really the target number a lot of sales managers will promote to you guys. 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10, okay? I had digressed. I forget how I even got over to that topic, but pulling it back to the talk track and those things. Again, step one is you're setting an intention. Oh, that's right. I was saying the expectation, right? So when you're talking to somebody, so let's just go through this talk track. We may not have too much time to role play it today, but at least let me give you the goods. I'm going to ask you bring this stuff back each week to these meetings, please. This is like step one of a multiple part workshop, let's call it. All right, so can I count on you to bring this back next week? Okay, thank you guys. All right, so I'll just go through with you guys. If I'm sitting with you, or Andrew, I'm in your home. So if I'm sitting with Andrew, hey Andrew, I just really want to thank you again for sitting with me. I adore what I do. I'm like really gaining a ton. One thing that Daniel does super well, when I watched him, he really explains his background. And so he humanizes himself. He breaks out of that I'm a stereotypical salesman mode, right? And you just like the guy, right? And it makes sense why he gets so many referrals. He spends literally a good 4 or 5 minutes going through his background. And it's not just solar background. It's like, really, here's who I am. Here's my story. Intimacy, Matt Kelly wrote a good book. He defined intimacy as self-revelation, revealing oneself to another. And so I'm not saying tell them your dark, deep secrets, okay? All right, keep some skeletons in the closet. But just letting them know a few things about yourself and then asking them questions, that by definition is intimacy. Self-revelation, revealing something about yourself to another person. So make sure you guys are doing that, and that's this part right here. So anyway, today ultimately, Andrew, is about making a difference for you. I want to make sure we clearly communicate, or I clearly communicate that to you, but I'd be remiss if I didn't let you know how much of a difference this weight makes for me, and I'm very grateful for you having me sit with you right now. I love introducing Sunrun Solar Service to tons of people. Now, the company gives me a few leads, but I prefer to solely work with people either I know or people I get introduced to by people like yourself. That way I always have a name to drop. I work with friends of friends. It just makes it more fun. It's a community field. Hey, we're all learning about solar together. All right, so let's have an amazing time today. That way at the end you're super excited to sponsor me and introduce me to everybody you know. All right, let me tell you about how the sponsorship program works. So the way the sponsor program works, I would love for you to sponsor me, and the way you do that is filling out a full sheet of referrals at the end. That's how you sponsor me. And then I get to write your name down here as one of my sponsors. I get to brag about you. All right. Nice. So we'll talk about more, that at the end. The company also has an amazing referral program, Andrew. We thank you tremendously by giving you some money, essentially, ultimately, because we're grateful. Our mission is to create a planet run by the sun and be customer obsessed. So as a thank you to you, everybody you know who goes solar will give you a $350 Visa card. All right, so I have plenty of people that have a goal of getting several of those per month, just on a consistent basis. And you start to do the math, it's pretty cool. Company wants to give you a chance to be involved in this whole green energy movement and really disrupt an industry that's 100 years old and sock it to the man, the utility company. So instead of advertising in traditional ways that cost millions of dollars, we'd rather go ahead and give you some incentive ultimately. So that's why the whole referral program came about. So ultimately it makes a huge difference for us, for you to let other people know about it. We're super grateful for that. So I'll have you again introduce me to tons of people at the end. Do you see that concept? Have you. All right. So that's the sponsorship. That's the plant the seeds. Damn it, I said plant the seeds out of habit. Okay, that's the, hey, I'm telling you the intention, right? Now there's a difference between what I just did and, hey, we have this program. We'll give you $350. So if you could, introduce me some people. Think about who's interested in solar. It's like this whole thing of ask, hey, how'd you hear about us? Even though you know how they heard about us. It's so inauthentic. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, most people, it's referrals. I hate that. It's like, just tell them, here's what I want. I want to be introduced to people that you know. That way it's easier. Whatever. Just shoot them straight. All right, so I went on a ride along with Jamil when he was brand new, and he would have ended at like 2 referrals, and I got him to a full sheet supporting him. I'm saying, no, put down more people, John. I think the guy's name was Frank or something. I forgot the dude's name, but the customer. All right, so it's like, no, all right, here's what we're doing. But you see that now. Can you tell my expectations are very high? Can you get a sense of my confidence? You see the eye contact. There's full clarity. That's the whole point of agenda, is that we don't have a hidden one. We do that for the selling of solar. Let's do the exact same thing when it comes to the referral. All right, that sort of thing. You can even go so far as say, hey, yeah, I'm also going to have you come around. We'll go ahead and introduce me to some of your neighbors. A lot of the partners do that kind of thing, right? I believe legacy, and I know Jay, I communicated that to him and other people. So there's this much more of this confident, assertive, because it's not aggressive. It's just being assertive, and it's fine. And don't forget, everybody wins when they partake in this program. So it's not something they're doing just for you, like, oh, it's a favor to me, so let me walk on eggshells. All right? It's mutually beneficial, so you totally can be comfortable, confident, assertive, straightforward. I'm just very straightforward about it, and that's what works. Let people know clearly what you want, what you desire. Ultimately, here's the way to view the initial part of this process. It's an if-then statement, which is the same thing as a trial close. If I'm likable, if you learned something today, not if you like solar. If I'm likable and you enjoy this consult, do you guys get that? Yeah. Then what? Introduce me to tons of people. Tons. Everybody.
I like everyone.
Everyone. All of humanity. Okay? Put them down. They live in Tahiti, God bless you. Put them down, all right? I got plenty of referral sheets, to go through with you. All right, so the next step, again, is the actual approach itself. This needs to be memorized, I'll tell you right now. So the two things you guys need to memorize would be this and the why sun run. Everything else, totally go ahead and use it as a bullet point, approach, and just fill in, the meat and potatoes with your own word choice. But until you're actually consistently generating 10, 15, 20 referrals per sit, you want to pull confidence from knowing that you have this down pat. It's got to be memorized to the point I could wake you up in your sleep and you could just spit it out. You all could do that for a lot of your favorite songs. Think about how many songs we have memorized. It's amazing. But yet people give me shit about not being able to memorize 10 points. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? All right, so view this as a favorite song if you need to. This at least makes you thousands and thousands of dollars, by the way. That's the other thing, too. Understand what this gives you access to. This plus what I can teach you next week, because we may run out of time, which is the phone approach for calling referrals. As a side note, you will be trained on how to call them. I think sometimes we don't get a lot of referrals because we think it's a waste, because we don't end up knowing how to call them. They don't get back in their schedule again. They're just pieces of paper that sit around we don't do anything with. So it would make sense in that case that we wouldn't even get them, because why would you be motivated to do something you don't think has a return on that investment? So I will say, please have faith that you will be taught how to call these referrals, and therefore there is a value on accumulating them now. I mean starting today on your next non-Costco sit. Got it? Or you can use these techniques. You can, by the way, use this approach I'm about to teach you for existing customers. You tweak it slightly, but it's the same language. Calling somebody back that you've talked to 2 months ago, all right, with the intention of generating referrals, not with the intention of trying to get referrals. Okay? All right, so no, I will get them. I'll call 10 customers I've already sat with, and I will get this many referrals. It's a will statement. Start to Babe Ruth it, please. Babe Ruth was famous for what? Calling a shot, right? Start please calling your shot with all parts of this business. I will generate this sit to close. I will get this many referrals. I will do this. I will get that. I will generate that. We're not going to sit there and hit you if you don't. All right, so it only adds value to have that right expectation, the will statement. All right? It's like a screenwriter who writes a play, and all the characters know what they will say. And that's how a plot unfolds, right? So you want to go ahead and start to really script it out and be willing to say, hey, this is how it will go. I'm calling my shot right now. All right? And then that whole universe thing, it conspires to support you, and you have that belief, and you make up your mind about that thing. We won't get into the secret, but whatever, right? I got that whole concept. Well, I guess we kind of already have with this stuff. But whatever, so let's go through the approach. All right, hey, do you like the presentation so far? Yes? Okay, cool. Are you having a good time sitting with me? I'm purposely doing that to reinforce what? The value of the sit, right? I'm making sure they're aware of that. Okay, hey, are you having a good time? You've learned some cool things? Good. Hey, and you could tell them, don't ever be afraid of telling them why you're saying what you're saying. It's okay. Hey, Joanna, I just want to remind you of the value of this, because, obviously I'm going to have you introduce me to tons of people. So here's where you can really help me out. As you know, I get paid to see if homes qualify for solar. So you want to pull it back to that. I'm on a mission to just qualify homes. Either give somebody a yes or no as to whether they're a solar-friendly house. That's my quest. You can support me in that big time. And we obviously give you some incentive too. I really only like to meet with people either I know or I've been introduced to. So what I need you to do, underline the word need. Right? It's you got to fight that Maybe could you kinda, right? Hey, could you write, maybe, you know, what it would be nice. It would be nice. Oh my God. Just punch yourself, all right? Just slap yourself, rather. The customer's like, why are you slapping yourself? Because I used a wimpy word, right? And you deserve better than that, and so do your friends, all right? So for me to be assertive here. Anyway, so what I need you to do while I'm finishing the design, working on X, I'm giving you just freedom. Well, you already have freedom, but I'm suggesting that you find a place in the pitch where you want to do this, because then you're going to make it work. Hey, yeah, it makes sense there. Okay, show me. Yeah, it will. Here's my results. Don't wait till the end. Why? Because the customer then says what? I'll do this when? Later. They need to know that this is part of the whole process. The mistake I see people make, they pack everything up and they go, here, jot down some names, and they sit there and look at it. Yeah, good luck with that, right? So customer's going to be like, oh, I'll just do it later. I got to go. All right? And then does later ever come about? No. Not really. All right? So that's why I put in parentheses, hey, while I'm finishing your design, while I'm doing this, while I'm working on X, all right, here's what I need you to do. I got something to do. You got something to do, all right? These extra lines I'm adding in, I'm not saying you should add into this, but I'm doing my best to teach you why I'm saying what I'm saying as I'm saying it. All right, so is to quickly fill out a few referral sheets, a few sheets. Inevitably, you're going to hand them 3. Why? Because it makes one smaller looking, okay? You will never count how many referrals are on a sheet. You'll never see me number the referral sheets. Hey, what I need you to do is jot down 15 referrals. 15, okay? No, hey, you need you to fill out at least one sheet. One sheet, all right? Right there. All right, so that's the approach. It makes a big difference, right? I mean, you hand them 3 drop. I mean, shoot, I used to have people back in the day say, hey, what I need you to do while I'm doing this is fill out 30 sheets. Customer's like, what? Oh, I'm kidding, 3's fine, all right? And now if they start writing when you say 30, I'm like, all right, okay? Yeah. Now, who here has gotten a photocopy of a golf community, or what do they call those things? Or a HOA, or a parents association, or their kids, whatever, all right? But guys, my former life, my former employer, we used to get photocopies of directories. We'd get tons of stuff, and then we'd go through and have them put an asterisk by who we should call first. Like, literally, that's how Cutco, and I'll just use the name, would attack the market. All right, and they have their shit together, all right? Not in all cases, but when it comes to the referral self-gen. I still have people working there that began with me back in 2000. 16 years, they've been selling knives, all right, through word of mouth. Now, they also do fairs and shows, and they also have a realtor program, those things, but they don't canvas, and you guys should start to do that, by the way, the canvassing, all right? I would encourage Cutco to start to do that, all right? So, literally, Jeffrey Bobrick, the dude sold almost... He's got to be up to almost $2 million in knife sales. All right, he began with me just before the week of 9/11. That's a whole other story. Running an office in Manhattan during that time. All right, so if you guys think I'm like the massive adversity, I guess I could tracked it with Nevada, and then yeah, you know. Anyway, I put a positive spin on it. I can then develop teams that give hope and belief to other teams, right? You know, so it's like, and that's what Andy and I were promoting and say, listen, we're going to get through this in Nevada. And ultimately what you guys are doing is causing others to rethink how easy their challenges are or how hard their challenges are. You know what I mean? So it's like, you'll help people out. I know it kind of sucks for you right now, but let's make this more of a servitude thing. Like, hey, this makes a difference, you know, on a grander scale. Back to this, though. So here are a few sheets and a pen. Again, hand them how many? 3. And always have a second freaking pen, please. All right. If they have to get up to get a pen, good luck getting referrals. All right. And I used to always take the 3 sheets. Can I borrow your pen, please? Do you see how I just said, "Can I borrow your pen?" I almost just took it from her. Like, there wasn't this maybe, could I get your pen? You know what I mean? Did you bring your wallet with you today? Which wallet? You knew what I was probably doing. What I normally do, and I teach there, out of the blue, I'll stop and be, okay, let me get your wallet real quick. And guess what the person does? I'm talking about you as sales trainers or sales trainees. they hand it over to me, and I demonstrate that, hey, did you see how unconsciously you just gave it to me? Because I just comfortably said, hey, hand that over to me. And then I showed them what it would be like if I said, hey, could I maybe get your wallet? I totally screwed up the exercise right there because I jumped from here over to here. I kind of let you know what I was doing. All right, so yeah, normally I'd be like, hey, let me get your wallet real quick. Here you go. All right, and they're like, wow, and I hold up and go, isn't it amazing what people will give you if you just ask confidently? Because unconsciously they hand it to you is what you're doing. That's kind of what the referrals need to be. It can't be like, can I maybe have your wallet? It's, let me get your wallet real quick. Yeah, and now I go like this. I go, now if I ask you wimpy, you'd ask me, why do you want it? You probably wouldn't say no, although that happened here, but you'd ultimately say, hey, why? And that's what you don't want with referrals. When I'm getting referrals, it's the, hey, let me get your wallet real quick. Mm-hmm. Or better yet, hey, let me get your pen real quick. Like, did you think, why does he want my pen?
No.
Like, it was just here, okay? And that's the way referrals needs to be, as opposed to, hey, could you maybe jot
Well, you're
some
leading.
down?
You are driving it, and yeah.
And that same thing applies with you are leading it when it comes to being in the customer's home, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just the way it works. Like, I'll be ordering a salad and get extra shrimp this way. Hey, real quick, yeah, throw some extra shrimp in there. Oh, wait. You know, it like... Really, if you're people, listen, communication largely, you know, is body language, okay? I mean, we all been taught that, right? So that's the whole book Blink, talks about the unconscious. That's why we can be walking down the street with a phone, eating food, and then yet not step in a pothole. You don't consciously see the pothole, you unconsciously see it. So we all make tons of decisions, right, every second, right, unconsciously, right? So that's that whole, hey, let me get that real quick. You know, hey, jot those down, go ahead, as opposed to... Because in that moment, the person then goes up in their mind, right, and they start to evaluate, criticize, judge, critique. Do I really want to do this? I don't know. What's going to happen to my friends? All right, so we'll talk more about the body language when we get to that in a second, which I guess we're here right now. Anyway, all you have to do is jot down name and number for now. Don't worry about, those other columns. Can somebody go in that underneath the TV? There should be 2 existing referral binders already in there. Let me see if it's under there. Bottom right, at the top of the right stack. Is there a referral binder there? Yeah, can I get that? Or let me get that real quick.
Give it to me now.
Give it to me now, sucker. Yeah, I think this is the one. No, all right, anyway, not a big deal. I have one where it has like literally 30 sponsors in it. Okay, so ultimately what you're doing as you're going through with the customer, you're flipping through sponsor sheets. Okay, and that's a little tip I'll give you in a second. The only sheets you're allowed to have in the front of these binders are full sheets. The only sheets, as opposed to 1 name, 2 names, because then I'm flipping through. Here's 1, here's 2. Nobody's really giving me any. Maybe you will. That's what gets communicated. So that's why I purposely hole punch these, because the only sheets that go in the front are what? Full friggin' sheets. If you need to, go to your mom, go to your wife, and have her fill out your first full sheet. Don't just make up the names, because that lacks authenticity, But literally, it could be people you've already reached out to or called. Literally, I want you by the end of today to have your aunt or your wife or your child, if they're old enough and they can write, okay? Like, literally have them fill out 1 full sheet, and that goes in the front of your binder. All right, so in order to hand you 3 sheets, you're seeing my sponsors that already exist. It's very critical that you follow this whole thing, all right? Again, if you do 99%, it's almost like you're doing 0%. Either you're pregnant or you're not. Either we're pregnant or we're not. Either we're on the approach or we're off the approach, okay? Either we're on the program or off the program. That's the kind of the way to look at it, right? So, anyway, here's a few sheets and a pen, and as I'm saying this, I'm flipping through. Here's a few sheets and a pen. Put down as many as you can. Thank you so much. All you have to do is put name and phone number down, all right? For now, don't worry about those other columns. Why am I just getting name and phone number first, as opposed to having them fill out the other columns each one at a time?
Lighten the load for them.
Exactly, because it feels like I just took an hour and a half with the first one. Heck no, you're not going to get a full sheet, okay? So I'm like, hey, don't worry about those other columns. Just do name and phone number for now. That's all I need. In fact, don't even write down their full name. If need be, if they have a nickname as Butch, put that down. I'm going to be the one to call them. That's an important line. I'm going to be the one to call them, all right? And so it's really personal. Feel free to put down their nickname, totally fine. It's got to be very easy for them to quickly fill up a full sheet. And in a bit, you're going to see, then you'll go through the qualifying columns with them and get those things filled out. Just as it says here, flip through full sheets to get to blank ones while doing end of approach. Smile, hand them pen, sheets. Again, 3, do paperwork. So if this, let's pretend that the first 5 of these were filled with sponsors, right? So I'd be like, hey, so Here's a few sheets and a pen. Yeah, let me get to them for you. See, once you get a rhythm going, you have belief and expectation, right? And then you also have evidence, right? And then it's really easy just to get it going, right? And then you snap it open. This is really important. The way you even do this. 3 sheets, and I would literally go like this. The pen falls down, and I go like this. Now, in this moment, a lot gets communicated. So let me show you what not to do, right? Which I just showed you a couple seconds ago, right? Because now I'm doing this, what's going on in your mind?
I have time to think.
Exactly, and that's the issue. Ultimately, for this to work, they have to be listening to your voice, not their own inner monologue. The second they go up into their mind, then they become critical. We become critical as humans, that's how it works. All right, that's why you never say to somebody, can I have the number? It's what is the number? Because if I say, can I have, they need to say yes or no to that, right? So as humans, to say yes or no, we have to evaluate the decision, as opposed to what's the number? There's a difference there, okay? So I hand the 3 sheets, I give this to them, and then I go about my business. Because if I sit there and look, I'm basically communicating to you. There's what we say, and there's what gets communicated. So if I wait, what gets communicated is here, I'm not sure if you're going to do this yet, so let me wait a split second to see if you do it. Do you get that? So pay attention to what gets communicated, not what you're saying. Now, ultimately, we want to get to the point where what we're saying is consistent with what actually gets communicated. So if I say, hey, I'm really confident with this. Obviously, I said I'm really confident with this. What got communicated to you? You're not. So become a master and at really being able to know what you're communicating to people through your body language, through your tone, and just accept it, acknowledge it first. Don't beat yourself up about it, but step one is the acceptance, or acknowledgement rather. Acknowledging you have a problem, right, with referral generation. So we're going to go into recovery, 12-step program, right? It'll be awesome. So you hand the 3 sheets, you go about your business. Next step, as it says here, is to drive up the number of referrals. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. Obviously, don't say that 3 times in a row, okay? I'm proving a point. I literally, as I get this person to 1 or 2 names, I'm literally going to make sure that every, 30 seconds, I'm acknowledging them for a job well done, but then I'm saying it could be anybody again. Because you literally will sit down with a couple, and the wife will be like, what about your friend Chuck? And he's like, nah. I'm like, yeah, put Chuck down. All right, they literally start to qualify because they want to make a difference for you. They think the way to do that is to think who owns 17 homes, who's like Mr. Green Energy, who buys everything. And so they have these ridiculous requirements in their brain, and then they write down 2 names, all right? And it's like, no, I want them to have it be all inclusive, not an exclusive list, all right? Again, you're not letting them qualify. Who's doing the qualifying? You are after you have the names, okay? You're not letting them qualify. You want them to literally write down anybody and their mama, all right? So, great job so far. You ever heard of the concept behavior recognized is behavior repeated? All right? Performance, recognized, performance repeated. That's why you want to be careful what you're acknowledging a child to do. If you're only acknowledging a child when they do something wrong, they're going to keep wanting some sort of attention. So I acknowledge, hey, great job. Awesome. Okay, on those 2 names so far. It really can be anybody. You're probably thinking who's going to go solar. It really can be anybody. See, I need to have them constantly be thinking, it can be anybody and I know more people. It can be anybody and I know more people. You guys get that? It goes back to, listening to my words, not going up into their own mind. So I say, hey, people with a pulse. Hey, I just really need you to sponsor me. Chances are good I won't get around to calling all these people. I really could use you to sponsor me. Now, I encourage you guys to give them something for sponsoring. I'm trying to get it from the company to have it come out of marketing budget, but shoot, with the amount of money you guys get paid on referrals, I would give them a $25 Visa card. For 15 referrals, you also have a little skin in the game, you're more likely to do well with those referrals. Call them if you've invested some dollars there. So I like eventually to redo it and have the marketing do it, but in the interim, spend the $25 Visa card. Okay. Hey, by the way, in sponsoring me, I give you a $25 Visa card. And you can promote that in the beginning. You don't have to wait if you're willing to do that. I would encourage you to do that, guys. All right, would be what I would say to you. It's totally worth it. I mean, how many referral sales do you have to get? 1 referral sales is an extra $800. All right, so to go ahead and get a return on that. Now, I will tell you this. Jamil got all those sponsors. You saw that picture without offering the customer anything. You see how I did that? Because the last thing I want you to do is attribute the sponsorship to I have to give them something. Guys, they just need to like you, and people like to be acknowledged ultimately. That's it for a job well done. Hey, yeah, put down more names. Sponsor me. Makes a huge difference. Again, I put you down here as a sponsor of mine. Get to brag about you. Cool. I mean, yeah. I also always say to people, hey, I'd love for you to break my record. My record is 4 sheets. You tap into those competitive people, oof, that totally hits a button. Like, all right. And that's how we've gotten full directories. That's how we've gotten tons of referrals. We always used to promote our record number. Hey, this is my record for number of referrals I got from somebody. I'd love for you to beat it. Don't forget, everybody you know goes solar. You get $350, and just sponsoring me, I'll give you a $25 Visa card. All right, as a thank you to you. The other cool thing about that is you're giving them immediate gratification, and they're getting a taste of what it's like to get a Visa card from our company. Shoot, make it $10. Make it $5. Okay, just so there's that. Do you guys get that? Okay, because then they're like, wow, they've experienced what it's like to get a Visa card. They're more likely to want to get the 350s, all right? And obviously that'll come as you sell their friend solar, obviously. So, chance to call them. Who do you know? You want to give thought joggers. Who do you know from the neighborhood? Who do you know from your kid's play date? Who do you know from this center? Who do you know from that place? Not do you know anyone, right? And then qualifying the referrals, have the customer fill in the rest of the columns, again, after you've already gotten the name and phone number only, all right? And they can abbreviate or whatever. This will set you up more powerfully for when I teach you how to call the referrals, when we review that. You want to be able to, when you do get the referral approach, hey, John, how you doing? This is Joe Gianelli. We haven't met yet, but I just sat down with your brother. Because I don't want to say, hey, I sat with your friend. Meanwhile, they're brothers. Good luck, all right, communicating to that person that you really know the brother. All right, so I've had some people, my former employer, where they would find out like the dog's name. And by the way, those guys and gals, they would make like $250 a sale. They make 50%, and the average order is $500, and they'd be like going all out to get $250. You guys get almost $1,400 or something like that per referral sale. What is the average in this market per referral sales? Anybody worked it out as long as you're at the highest tier? Nobody's worked that out.
It's like $800.
What's up?
It's like $800.
$800 difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 800.
Yeah, 800.
Difference. So it's about
800 more.
So I'm talking about total income for a referral sale. It's over $1,000.
Okay.
I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got to work it out. So you guys are motivated by that. Yeah. So my point is, even if it's $800, all right, to take a few extra steps to be able to get the payout on those makes a big difference. All right. So I'm just letting you know, like at my former employer, those guys and gals would go all out of their way, and they'd be getting $250 a sale. All right, so I think we just take that for granted. We forget about the opportunity that referrals and self-gens offers us sometimes. Not fully. I'm not saying you guys are oblivious to it, but I think it's good to be reminded consistently what's in it for you to do these techniques, right? All right, so we got to finish this up in the next few minutes. Let's go through the rest of the packets, and then we'll end on that note. So qualifying the referrals, there is value there. You could also say at the end of getting a full sheet or whatever, hey, if you were me, who would you call first? Because you already have the names and numbers. It's not like they're going to remove them from you. They're not going to like rip up the sheet or anything like that. The other thing is, please start to say, who do you know from the northern part of California? Who do you know back in New York? Please, because here's the thing. You just got to keep them writing. You'll find a lot of people start to slow down. I don't know anybody else, right? And then I say, oh, by the way, I can do phone consultations. Who do you know from back east? Put them down. And they'll usually write like one in New York, and then they'll keep writing, but then they start writing more California. Meanwhile, they just got done saying they don't know anybody else in California. Because you just kept them what? Going. That's all you got to do. Hey, oh yeah, put down somebody. And by the way, you guys want to wear your inside sales rep hat. Those guys and gals sell all over our 14 states for Sunrun. Why aren't you guys? And before you leave, make sure you grab one of those. It's a utility chart of all the utilities in California. So you really want to, and some of you guys may already have that, but it's on one piece of paper. So you really start to tap into, are you selling in San Francisco? Are you guys selling, all throughout California? Why the hell not, I mean, you could do those phone consults in your underwear.
You can just ask for, just look at your recent calls and give me get that list.
Another big one right there. See, these are things, once we're introducing the program, it's up to you guys to then add your best practices. So you're going to take this and make this version 1.1 San Diego style, okay? So I'm just giving you the basic foundation. Things like that are brilliant. All right, your recent phone calls. I used to say, hey, one person per letter of the alphabet in your phone contact list. I just need one person per letter within your phone. Take out your phone. Jay did that a lot. He would tell the guy, hey, just take out your phone real quick, Joanne. Cool, yeah, go ahead and just go through there. You just want to get them set up to be able to write the names down. Again, if you don't have a pen or you don't have to take out their phone, that's in the way of them being able to jot the names down, right? Get the yes, a heads up program. Just shoot them a quick text that I'm calling. It's easier for me, and I'm sure they'll want a quick heads up. Jay did a great job that record-breaking month of getting the customers to give heads ups to their friends. Now, you don't need them to. Like, don't say that as like a requirement. Hey, Joanne, I'll only call them if you get a hold of them. Because now you have to wait. That's not what you want. Hey, Joanne, here's what a lot of people like to do. Remember, everybody's doing it, all right, that concept. So, hey, shoot them a text message, give them a heads up. And then literally they just give them a heads up, or they shoot the people an email. But don't make it a requirement for you to call the people, all right? Because then again, you're stuck waiting and sitting on all these leads and you can't contact them, all right? And you see, you could play with the language a bit. Hey, I just referred you to an awesome solar guy, all right? Now, if you think solar is not the word you want to use in that text, then change it. Again, I'm used to Vegas. It's a bit different. We have less of a market penetration, all right? So this is where, again, you guys are going to need to, well, we're going to have to San Diego-ize it. All right. Do I have 3 more minutes, 2 more minutes? What do we got? Okay. I want to go through the common concerns and objections because let's quick review. Fence sitters, 60%. You need to make how many attempts with them?
3 to 5.
3 to 5 attempts. So this is where you would get comfortable doing that. This last page of the packet here. Okay. So let's spend a little bit of time going through this. All right. Because only 2 out of 10 times will a customer just cruise and put a whole sponsorship and you're good to go. 6 out of 10, I can assure you, will say one of these things on this last page. Right here, okay? So I'll do it later. Hey, listen, Andrew, that's cool. Because you're acknowledging that they're willing to help. You guys get it? You're not hearing that as like a rejection or a no. They're not saying no, I'm not writing names down. They're saying, I'm doing, hey, cool. It means you want to make a difference for me. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Your friends are going to love that too. However, I'm still going to go through a few things. We still have time, during this sit itself. And I know that people have like the intention of doing it later, but life happens. A lot of stuff goes on. All right. And again, this is the only way I like to work is being introduced to people. It's so significant to me. Do you get that that's the theme? This is really significant. So, hey, if you could just jot down a handful now. See, I'm compromising as well. I began with 3 sheets. Promoting one as a sponsor, but I'm going to concede a little bit if they do give me a bit of objection. Oh, I get it, Joanne. Totally. Well, I have a few things to do anyway. This means the world to me. That's why I'm promoting it to you, because this is the way I operate, how I can be stable, introduce me to the masses. So why don't you just start off with a few for now? Because once I get them to write a few, it'll be easy to what?
Keep them going.
Drive the number up. Yeah, you just got to go ahead and break that seal. All right, and get that first one even. Now that's the tough part. Let me not ever use the word tough. That adds meaning to the action. All right, that's like 80% of getting to this or learning this process. Getting one name and number, because that means they trust you, they like you, they buy into the program. It should be easy to go from an average of 1 to 10, 15, and 20. All right. So, can you leave me a sheet? Anybody ever get that from somebody? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I'll do it later. I'll leave you the sheet, okay? I'm like, hey, listen, that's awesome. It means you want to make a difference for me. I get it. However, people have really great intention of getting around to and doing it later, but obviously this isn't the number one priority for you. Maybe you don't say about them, you say about everybody in general. And it's not the main priority for people. I would say that versus like you is not a priority for you. No, yeah, I'll show you. You guys get that wouldn't work, so correcting myself as I go. This is how in tune with your words you want to be. Mm-hmm. Don't get to the point of being neurotic about it, okay? But just know, sure. Yeah, and so words you say impact everything. Yeah, exactly. Everything gets created in language, right? So start to really be able to critique yourself, on that level, and say, okay, yeah, that word choice is what's causing the results to be skewed for me. Plus, it's the main way I work, so again, it would mean the world to me. I like to say that a lot. It mean the world to me. All right? Feel free to write down anybody. Start with a few for now. I don't know anyone. We've all gotten that before, right? I need to then put that in. I need to finish the sentence with them. Oh, I get it. So you're probably thinking, I don't know anybody who's going to go solar. Totally. I get that. Hey, by the way, thank you. It means you're trying to figure out how to make a difference for me. The way you truly can, though, is by introducing me to everybody. That's how I can be stable, is being introduced to the masses. And so it's going to take me a few minutes to do this anyway. Here, we'll get started with a few for now, and then I'll go ahead and make an attempt there, and I'll just have them do it, give the sheet. I'm constantly shifting the sheets back to them. That's also what I'm doing. Here you go. They go back. Okay, great. Yeah, so do that. Oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's awesome. Good job. Here. They're literally, if you watch me in action, it's like back and forth 4 or 5 times. And they're like, all right, fine, screw it. I don't give out names. That was back to your point before, right? About the uncomfortable thing. Number one, you want to be able to take that in without it ruffling your feathers. That goes back to the example of Bill doing question-based selling and not judging what the person has to say. Guys, whenever you're dealing with concerns or objections, we have to be on a quest to understand them. It doesn't mean we agree with them. We usually don't. All right? We understand them, though, which makes it not about you and your own emotional state. It makes it about them, making a difference for them. I'm here to be a sounding board. That's it. Okay, tell me more about that. Nothing to do with me. You want to be committed but not emotionally attached is my point. If you're emotionally attached and you potentially could get upset at an outcome, who is it more about, you or them? You, right? Because you're emotionally attached. You get upset. You want to be fully committed to them introducing you to their friends, not emotionally attached. Because if I'm emotionally attached, they'll know it's about me as the salesperson, and then they're going to want to probably not do it. All right? So instead, it's like, I'm committed. I'm not emotionally attached. I'm going to love you either way. Oh, I wouldn't say that. I'm going to like you no matter what. All right? So feel, and that just works when you're doing these things. So when somebody says, oh, I don't give out my names, too often we let the, and it gets into this, we try to pretend as if we don't care. But in actuality, there is that back and forth, and we potentially say something jabbing to them. It's like, oh, it's just very ordinary, that reaction, okay? So you want to train yourself to be like, hey, I'm just kind of listening to what the person has to say to me. So I say, okay, I get it, but I don't blame you, at all. I totally understand, because I do understand. Don't agree. I understand, though. It sounds like you may be worried that they're going to get upset at you. Hey, I appreciate that. Let me explain to you how that's not possible. You guys get that? Okay, I'm the one that's going to call them. In fact, let me tell you what I'm going to say to them. I'll call them up. I'll make it super simple for them to say yes or no to me. I'm just going to introduce myself, say I met with you, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to either sit with me or not. If they don't want to, that's fine. Because the last thing I want to do is affect our relationship, because I know you're going to introduce me to more people in the future. You see how but now you can't leave it at that. You got to close again, right? So here you go. It really can be anybody. This makes a difference to me. Go ahead and jot them down. Because too often we end after a period as opposed to quack. You guys know quack, question, answer, question? Never end after a period, right? Like if somebody says, what are you telling me about? Oh, it's a solar service, an alternative provider to SDG&E. And you pause. Yeah, good luck with that. All right, so instead, and like I said, though, the way it should be is, it's solar provider, alternative to SDG&E. Like I mentioned, no obligation, company salaries, me, just to give you a few numbers, definitely would be value for you to at least hear out the numbers, right? And if you really don't like what we're talking about after 15 minutes, you can kick me out the door. Anyway, I'd like to do 10 by Tuesday. Would 2 o'clock be good, or would this time be better? Because that way I'm making the conversation about the scheduling, and I'm pulling it away from telemarketing and sales. That's your little teaser for next week. We'll talk about phone skills next week, all right? So we'll go through that. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can add more to that, and I'm kind of rushing this, so next week we can do more like involvement and whatever. And the bottom part are just some additional, tips there, like just making sure they clearly know that X equals this. But be careful, though, because, again, I don't want them thinking they're introducing me to people that are going to go solar. They're just introducing me to people that I'm going to speak to for 30 seconds. Or maybe not at all. Like, again, that statement of, hey, it could be anybody. Chances are good I won't get around to calling everybody. I'd love you to sponsor me. Here you go. All right? Breathing is good. Any questions? Let's do like 2 minutes of Q&A, and then we could wrap this up. I'll press stop, and this becomes like the leads workshop. All right. Any questions?
You mentioned before that this needs to be pretty tight in terms of memorization. Are you finding, just from practice standpoint, that if it's not tight, and we'll fail a lot before we're successful,
yeah.
But if you're not as tight as you were during this entire presentation, that just shit really hits the fan. Like it just doesn't go over really well. Like if you don't own it and commit to it, that this isn't going to work pretty well.
It's going to come back to expectation. So if you've made up your mind that you have to have it word for word or as down pat as me, and that's what will lead to success, then guess what? That'll come true. If you make up your mind that, hey, I have the right... What's up? Yeah, exactly. Goes back to that. Mm-hmm. So if you make up your mind that, hey, listen, I have the be committed to learning it, but you make up your mind. It's actually a belief. I believe, however, though, as I'm learning it, I can start to put in place the concepts and therefore get better results. And then that changes like the formula, the rules for yourself. See, we come up with these rules, if this, then that. Mm-hmm. So like in order for me to get this, I need to be prepared, but I don't even know what the hell prepared means. And so it's like this weird game we play with ourselves. So you'd have to decide what works for you. All right? I would just say bite the bullet and learn the 10 lines. I'm not talking memorize the plant the seeds and all that stuff, although it can't hurt. Mm-hmm. But I'm just talking that one part that actually you hand the sheet and they write it down. Listen, could you guys use your own word choice and still get the results? Yes. If that's the case, God bless you, do it. I'm not married to the approach, but you take somebody who's their last 10 sits has gotten 3 referrals, I would say let's wipe it down. Let's start from scratch. Learn this because they're coming from a more insecure place, right? So if you guys can go out and tweak this a bit and average 10 referrals per sit, I'm okay with that. Again, I don't care about how you're getting there. I just want you there, all right? But I usually find that if somebody tries to like do part of it and they haven't been getting the results, they'll keep not getting the results. Is what I found at least. So, just commit. I'm going to learn this by whatever. It's been 30 minutes. It's worth thousands of dollars to you guys. Like just think about that for a second. Think about look at Kendra and Daniel. How much more money they made than somebody else selling the same amount of deals. So the same effort, they made way more income because they took the time to have like a process in place. And I would challenge Daniel to even learn this because I believe he waits a little too long. He waits more for like, I got to talk to the person 18 times and they have to already be PTO and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, dude, come on, just freaking get them while you're there. All right, and call them that night.
Yeah, I'm guilty too. I mean, it's kind of my approach, but it's a limiting belief, but I've been on both sides of that fence, and I want to be more committed to something like this.
Perfect.
Right? Just
try it on for size. Yeah, so to me, it's burn the bridge, learn the new approach. That's how I would go. All right, but again, if you can get the results regardless, then great, do it. I'm not married to the approach. I'm married to the results. For sure. Yeah. I dig those. Any other questions?
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So where you go from here is to buy into your new belief, or have a new belief. Like come up with, I believe it's easy to get referrals and people know tons of people and they'll introduce them to me. Have your why and how exercise done. Here's why I got it. Here's how. Here's why. Here's how. But then you have to go out and execute this when? Today immediately. Because if you don't, we're going to digress back. I can assure you we'll go back to limiting belief. And all we need is 1 or 2 of you to get it done and then buy into their belief. That's all. As a sales manager, and Andrew knows this, we just need to get 1 or 2 people to get onto the program and get the results, because then it's like a chain reaction. It's a Roger Bannister effect, right? First human being sub 4 minutes for the mile, and then a whole strew of people did it after he did it. Okay, now what's cool is you guys don't need to be Roger Bannister. We already have them. I've had them since 1999. That's the thing too. Too often it's like, well, I gotta prove it. I gotta get the results to know this works. Dude, people have been getting referrals in direct sales for like 100 years. All right, like this works. Okay, it does. We don't need any of the, come on. So you don't need to be Roger Bannister, but I guess I can say let's have our local Roger Bannister, even though we know the program works overall. So if you do what somebody else does, you'll get what they get. That's all you gotta do. Let's get rid of this whole talent-driven myth. Oh, they're just talented. And immediately when we say that, we don't look to see what do they say, in what order, how are they being, what were their behaviors, right? Because it's just they're talented. Or we say we got lucky, right? Can I challenge you a little bit, Andrew? Earlier you had said about, oh yeah, we had 50% last month. But that's, I don't know, your word choice was almost like, but that's not, you didn't say that's not normal, but in a way, like that's what got communicated. So instead, we're going to do this. To me, it's what exactly did you guys do last month? Let's document that. Let's repeat at least that. So now the bar is at 50%, but let's now look at what additional action, because as we discussed earlier, better action, increased quality action, more action leads to more performance. So to me, you never go backwards. It's like bench pressing. Once you hit that level, or like the mile, I was a runner. I was a runner. I still am a runner. All right, so not as fast as I was. Once you hit that, PR, right? That personal record, like you never go back again. So you never want to go back, which is why we always promote, hey, we've done this, but let's keep growing. Let's keep improving. Let's keep, that way we're all being responsible for being stimulated and excited. Sales teams have lost way too many high performers because the manager just doesn't challenge them. Puts all the energy into people that are just coming up, the ranks when they're new, and it's like, well, I don't want to challenge my top guys too much. What if they quit? Well, they're going to quit because they get bored if you don't challenge them. All right, so and you guys should start to do that with each other, not wait for Andrew. All right, now that's another issue too. We put way too much, we give way too much power to the manager, and it's just not fair to him or you. All right, he's not going to be around all the time, so it's up to you guys as a community to be each other's sales managers, is what I would say. And I know that has nothing to do with referrals, but whatever. Any other questions?
Just a free tip for the day, right?
Yeah, there you go. Anything else?
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Good job. Oh, no, that's us, right? Yeah, if you guys weren't as present as you were, then it would be like me talking to the wall, all right? And you guys have all public spoke before when the audience isn't into it. It's like, oh my God, holy crap, this sucks.